What's up, YouTube? You're watching Steel City MotoVlogs. I'm Derrick T, your host, and I'm coming to you on this TGIF. Almost the last day of July. Summer is just flying by. It is July 29th. Roughly about 5 o'clock in the evening. And probably about 79 degrees outside right now. I purposely waited until a little bit later in the day to make this run. Number one, I had a couple things to do, and number two, the weather wasn't looking very promising. Like, I'm talking about, it was dark, but it never really rained. And I ain't talking about just a little bit of rain. I'm talking about like the way those clouds were looking. It was going to come down. So I said, well, let me wait, because the weather people did say it was going to clear up a little bit later in the day, and that's exactly what it's doing. So I'm much more comfortable making this ride. Now, I'm in for a long one. One of the kids that I work with is about 2 hours away from me. I've been meeting with him via Zoom for that reason. But this is my final session with him, and I have a little something to deliver to him in person, so it being the last session and all. So I wanted to go up and kind of make his day a little bit. So this one is about an hour and 45 minutes away. I'm just now passing through downtown Pittsburgh and starting to head north. And that's what we're going to do, is we're going to head north on 79. Before I left, stopped at a service station and I checked my tire pressure. Particularly my rear tire. Was a little concerned. It looked and felt like it might have been running a little bit lower than usual. I like to run it at 45 psi, and it was on like 41, so it ended up not being that bad, that far off. It definitely wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be. For those of you dark side know-it-alls who are about to chime into the comments, let me help you out a little bit. Yes, I ride dark side. That is, I have a car tire on the back of my Gold Wing. It is a 175/55/15 that I'm running, but it's not, I repeat, is not a run flat. And so the higher PSI is due to that fact. Run flat tires have a harder sidewall. And because they have a harder sidewall, you don't have to have as high of an air pressure in there. But on a non-run flat, okay, on a non-run flat, the sidewall is not as firm, and therefore you have to kind of make up for it or compensate for that by having a higher PSI. So I've been running it at 45. It really feels good right there. I've put roughly about 7,600 miles on my dark side tire running at that pressure, and it's been really good to me, so that's where it stays. So I'll end up not quite in Erie, PA. I thought that's where I was headed, but we're actually going to go up 79, and before we get into Erie, we're going to jump on I-80 and go east, if I'm not mistaken, for a little bit. So not quite making it all the way to the Great Lake, but even still, for a work run on a day like today on my Gold Wing, you know, working and making a few dollars and cents along the way, you know, it's an all-around win. It's all around win. Speaking of working and playing and being able to have flexibility to create my own schedule and everything else, I have finally, after 2 years with this bike, Bought this bike in May of 2020, and finally after 2 years I've come up with a name. Tired of calling it the bike. The Gold Wing. Everybody's got a Gold Wing. Refers to it as the Gold Wing. I finally have a name for the bike. So of course I'm not just going to come out and tell you, right? You know, you're going to have to kind of stay with me and ride with me on this one for a little bit. So I'll give you a little bit of my own story. I came out of school in '99, and I got, you know, this shiny new degree, and I immediately put it to work as a school teacher. And I worked in Richmond, Virginia public schools. I taught elementary school, 3rd grade to be exact, for 2 years there. That was the early 2000s. That was literally 2000 to 2002. I was down in Richmond at the time of 9/11. As a matter of fact, from Richmond, Virginia, we could see the smoke from the Pentagon on 9/11. So after the 2002-03 school year, I moved back home, and I spent the next several years, more than a decade, teaching at a private school, small private school here in the Pittsburgh area. And in 2016, I walked away from school teaching because I wanted a little bit more control over my schedule. Wanted a little bit more control over my schedule. Wanted to do a little something different too. And so I started a business. I got my insurance license. That's Pennsylvania's state life insurance and fixed annuities license. And I went into business with a friend of mine, and I started peddling life insurance. I got pretty good at it. I eventually had a small brokerage going on. I had a number of carriers that I had contracts with, and in addition to life insurance, I was also doing retirement plans. And one of my large clients was the Pittsburgh School District, the City of Pittsburgh School District. I would work with school teachers and helping them understand how their pension works and their retirement plans. And then I would also do supplemental IRAs and a host of other financial products. And so that business was pretty good to me for about 3 years until the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, like as with anything else, with a lot of other businesses of every kind, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to meet with people because those meetings have to be done in person. So it was a little bit of a struggle to get in front of people. And so it was hard to attract new business. So I actually, in addition to that, I was rideshare driving. I was Uber driving full time. So I was, if I wasn't running appointments for my financial clients, I was Ubering. If I wasn't Ubering, I was running appointments for my financial clients. That was how I hustled, and that was how I made my money, and it was a really good time. During the pandemic, when things got a little hairy coming out of there, I decided I was going to go back and at least start off grabbing another job. But I didn't want just any old job, and I didn't want to go back into the classroom. I felt like that ship had sailed. And so a good friend of mine who works for an awesome company made me a referral, and I found this particular position. And I have another business on the side. I do some consultation in a local school district as well. I'm not a school teacher, but I do work with some kids on the side as well. And so I'm kind of rebuilding my business, but as with anything, while you're building a business, you kind of have to finance your life too. And so being in social services really helps me do that, helps me accomplish that. And in my particular position, I mean, the kind of flexibility there is to work from home, create my own schedules, get out and see people, ride my motorcycle to go do it. You just can't beat it. I couldn't beat it. It does exactly what I needed to do for me. So I have the best of both worlds. And it's exactly what I needed. I'm coming up on 2 years in a motorcycle club as well. The name of that motorcycle club is called the Free Spirit. And I've been talking all this time and kind of dropping you all clues as to the name of the bike now, but nonetheless, I've been in that for about 2 years as well now. But really having the independence, the flexibility. I jokingly say that I work and play at the same time, and I'm ever so serious about that. I get a chance to do both, and it really makes life enjoyable, where I'm not just, I don't feel like I'm just on a clock grinding, not enjoying myself, and, you know, wishing for the weekend so I could go do whatever. I kind of get to enjoy my life while working to finance it at the same time. So that's just the kind of person I am. I would much rather live on my own terms as much as possible than to, you know, kind of be a slave to, you know, asking for days off, and, you know, I need to get this approved and that approved, and I got to ask for this and ask for that and everything else. I get just enough. I have some of that on my job. Don't get me wrong. I have some of that, but I'm not locked into that. You know, I don't have to sit in office from 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock every day. I like having the ability to do the things that I want to do, you know, while keeping a very good balance of doing the things that I have to do. So, something else that happened about 3 years ago, and I'm not telling y'all this story because I need you all to feel sorry for me or anything like that and everything else. You know, people go through different things in life, and such is life. But 3 years ago, I got divorced. And I remember the day I got that piece of paper in the mail. I read that piece of paper one time, and I've never even laid eyes on that piece of paper again. But I remember what that decree said. What the decree said was essentially that I was free from the bonds of matrimony. So a couple key words in there: free and bonds. And unfortunately, you know, it didn't start out that way, and it definitely takes two to make a relationship work or not work. But, you know, at the end, you know, at the very end of things, it was just that. It was a bondage. It was a toxic situation. It was, you know, it was bondage. It did not feel very free to be myself. And so, you know, it wasn't the tragedy that, you know, a lot of people make it out to be. It just wasn't. And it's a piece of life, and, you know, you deal with it and you move on. But one of the first things I did when I got that piece of paper was I went to a motorcycle dealership and I bought a motorcycle, because it was something that for the time that I was in that relationship wasn't able to do. And so I went out and I decided I was just going to start doing more things that I wanted to do, because I felt free to do it. And so, with that being said, I've kind of been wrestling around with different ideas about naming my bike, and you know, I didn't just want to give it any old name, and I didn't want to just, for the sake of having a YouTube channel, have a bike with a name on it or anything else like that. Like, I really wanted it to mean something. So when I look back over what's been kind of my motorcycle journey to this point, which started back in 2019 with that 2005 Yamaha V-Star, and then moving on to, a year later, moving on to this bike that I'm on, I've really had a chance to do some amazing things, and go to some amazing places, you know, on this two-wheeled machine. And so with that being said, and anybody who knows, you know, anybody who rides a bike understands the freedom that you experience when you're riding. You're out here on this open road like this, and yeah, it comes with its inherent risks, but we don't ride for fear of the risks, we ride for the freedom. And so that's what that is what this 1998 Honda Goldwing GL 1500 has represented for me. Oh, one more thing, and I promise I'll tell you the name. At the time that I bought this bike, I was blessed to be able to pay cash for it, and so I don't have any liens or loans against it. And so for all the things like it, you know, for like my car, I have a car payment, you know, I pay expenses, you know, to live in a certain place, and all of those things, you know. So there's obviously an amount of stress that comes with all of those things, because you're trying to manage debt. Being a working class person, that's all you're really doing, is working to manage debt. But I have no debt where this is concerned, so it's another element, which is nice, because when I go out to experience the freedom of the road, you know, that freedom doesn't come with a debt price tag on it, which is pretty cool. Anyway, back to the name of the bike. This bike's name is Freedom. Now, so when you're watching Steel City MotoVlogs and you see Derrick T, you see freedom as well. I'm out here experiencing freedom, being free, and there's just nothing like it, you know. And the fact that it took me 2 years to come up with that is way beyond me. I don't even think that that's a topic for this video. Yeah, because it was staring me in the face for 2 years. But that's okay. That's okay. But the name of my bike is Freedom. So, and long live freedom. We're going to have a lot more journeys and experiences together on this motorcycle journey. So that is my bike's name. Tell me what you think. Drop a comment below.